Do. All right. Good morning, senior sketchers. Glad to see you're back here. There we are. Boom. Always have the phone right here so I can make sure that I show up. Let's see if I can. All right. Turn this down because it always has a heck of a delay. Today we're going to work on doing a little bit of a sunset, and so you can get an idea of how to do it. And uh, we're going to use this little split rail fence. This is an AI image. Well, this is my version. I asked AI to make one, and then I used that to make my own version of it. And I think I'm going to do a few more of these and move the trees around. I'm not quite happy with where the trees are, but it's a good lesson plan and it's a cute little picture. So maybe you'll have some fun with it. We're going to work on making the sunset look like it's in the distance and yet coming down through the fence here. Coming down. Let me see. I can show you better this way. If I get, let's get the table on and send that over there. How's that? Yes. So I'm gonna work on making the sunset back here, but also making it come down through here. So we see it coming down. And making a sunset in the sky. So shouldn't be too much trouble. A lot of fun. And let's get started. Everybody should have, let's see, we're not quite in the picture there, are we? What's that a little better? Do. Everybody should have taken their wet brush and put a little bit of wet water on their paints. Get it a little softer. Of course, you can use a drop or two from a dropper too, or a little bottle with a squirt thing on top of it, an eyedropper, all kinds of ways to do it. Just go ahead and make sure that you have some moisture on them so they're not completely dry. And I'm going to go ahead and put up, everybody has seen the painting. There it is. It's funny how much different everything looks on camera. So the painting that's up there in the top left corner is the same painting here. I took the picture of this, and you can see how colors differ. Strange, huh? Let me get you the pattern up there, and you can start by photographing the pattern. Maybe. Let's see. Hmm. There it is. And there you go. And I'll be right back if you want to start drawing that, and I will draw mine. I wanted to get a little jar to show you. It's in my office. Okay, I have it. Let's go ahead and let's draw this thing up. Everybody take a picture of the pattern with your phone. Did you get your cell phone up there and get a picture of it? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put that one up in the corner of the drawing. And I will go ahead and draw mine, which will look similar to yours, I'm sure. set that there so I can plan. As usual, I'm using my, what is this? Pilot Custom. Pilot Custom, made in Japan. So I'm going to pick where to put my background hills. See this line back here, this background hills. And I want the hills low enough because I want this fence to break through the hills every once in a while. Okay. So I'm going to do just a little bit of something here. A little dip in it there and a little higher. Right. And then if you want to, you can put a foreground hill in here, but it's not really necessary. Or not mandatory because it's kind of difficult to do that. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the standard thing here. And let's say I'm going to have the fence rail right in here. I'm going to make mine just a little bit more crooked than I made that first one. And I don't like to make them too perfect. And then we're going to put a gate in there. So I'm going to have a fence rail here. And a smaller one here. This one doesn't quite go up to the top, and it shouldn't go all the way to the bottom. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have. It can, or it can, or it doesn't have to. Either way. Either way. Whichever you prefer. I'm going to make my gate just a little bit smaller here. So I'm just making all the down rail things here. This one, it's hard to see here what I did, but there's actually a space in between this post and this one's closer, so there's very little space in there, but kind of so you could see through here. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. You could put the posts as though the light was just shining through. I'll show you. I'm going to go ahead and put this taller one almost touching it, or even touching it in some places. And I'm going to put this one just here with a little bent up top. And yours doesn't have to, remember, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. So I'm going to put a couple rails here so we can see them. Let's see. And I'm putting my rails as though they are either butted up against this post or behind it. We don't really know for sure whether they're what happened there. From this one to here. And from this one to here. I'm going to put a little higher just for the fun of it. And we're making the gate. I don't think I went quite over far enough with that one. That's all right. These, I don't want to make these too perfect, so I'll put one kind of slanting down a little bit. This one kind of slanting down the other way. And the third rail close to the bottom. I may have even got mine a little close. So I'm going to pick this one up, put it across there. Ooh, and this one is falling down. There we go. And then another one along the bottom. The tree's a little challenging if you're if you're drawing yours. So let me have a cup of tea, sip my tea this morning. It's got a little cream in it, which I seldom do, but I'm having some sugar cookie sleigh ride this morning. It was a little chilly when I went walking the dog a few hours ago. Hmm. And it made me feel like kind of wintry. Okay, the tree, I'm going to show you something here too. On the pattern, um, this tree, I think I'd like to move mine. You can copy the pattern and it works fine right there. But there's a rule in art, try and not line things up one on top of the other. Okay. So I think when I draw mine, I'm going to draw my tree just a little further to the left. But right now I'm going to work on this tree. Let's see here. So I'm going to say that it starts here and comes on up, maybe branches out this way with a bigger branch. Leave some stuff there because there's going to be some leaves, foliage. Make a Y here. Come down, maybe make a branch there. These trees take a little practice, so don't feel too bad if yours comes out looking a little wonky. Mine often do look, uh, I would say, a little wonky. But after you do a few of them, you'll probably feel better about them. I'm going to do one that's not in the drawing there. I'm going to put one that goes up from the back and comes out this way. And let's see here. Let's come on down and make a big one coming out here. That may go up to that one. And I'm going to come down with it. That's a big one there. And come here and put some foliage, some grass, some bush, something at the bottom there. And let's see here. You want to, when you're going to put, well, let's finish putting some branches in there. Maybe I'll put another one. I don't know. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of the foliage in there like this. So when you are drawing the foliage, it's best to leave just a tiny bit of a sky hole here and there. You, of course, don't have to use a fountain pen. You can use your pencil. Gives you the ability to correct things, for one thing. And if you draw kind of lightly, um, you won't see your pencil lines when you're finished, or very few of them. Whereas now, because I use the fountain pen, a lot of pencil lines show up. And to do the foliage, kind of look at the outside perimeter of your tree to give yourself an idea of what you want your tree to look like. You can have some areas, I went over this, but you can have some areas where there's foliage. For instance, I'll do it right here, that went behind the tree, behind that branch. Didn't necessarily come in front, right? A lot of people like to add like a little bush or something that went out. This will probably go like that. A little bush or a little piece of branch that came off over here. And has a little bit of branch on it. some kind of a bush here in the foreground or close to the foreground. And I'm going to put this tree out here. Now, this tree is a little further out, so the bottom won't come down as far as this tree comes down. And I can make these trees bigger when I get to painting. I can put things out, paint over some of what I've drawn. Put a little bush or a tree right here. Okay. Got a little something over here in the corner. We're not even sure what it is. And we're going to put some bush around the bottom here. How are we doing? Is everybody getting their drawing done? Think that in the future I am going to redo these videos, these live videos, because we're really struggling with the Wi-Fi. We've been using the Starlink, and I'm still not sure if it's something to do with OBS or with the Starlink, but you can see, especially in last week's video, I tried to broadcast from my office, and it's only 35 feet from the Starlink thing. No, I can't think of what it's called, but a little thing that shoots out you know, the radiation or whatever it is that comes to get us that we're not supposed to sleep with them on. And there was big holes in that last one. And so I'm letting mine dry up just a minute while you folks get yours going. And I am going to clean on my palette. I'm going to get a clean one for my blue, fairly clean. You know me, I never really, I like to neutralize colors, so my palette is seldom clean of any kind. And I'm going to work on one. Might as well do all three of these for now. I don't want to dirty them up as the future goes on, as we go on. But right now, I don't think you can see that. I'm going to pull it over just a little bit. But it is that you can't see is that this one, this pan right here, I'm going to use for the sky yellows and oranges and stuff like that. So you may not be able to see it unless I show it to you. Take your brushes when you get ready and be sure and wet your brush first. Don't just bend it when it's dry. Go ahead and wet it. It's much nicer for the brush. While everybody's drawing, I was going to show you this little trick here. This is gum Arabic. Happens to be a Winsor and Newton one. Um, Gum Arabic and generally in the watercolors, the most common, it's one of the binders that's most common in watercolors. People use a lot of things like honey. But the reason I'm showing you this is when you wet your watercolor a lot of times and you use it just a little bit, you kind of take all of this, some of this binder out of it. And I find that just putting a drop one or two drops in each of the little hands. Um, not often. You don't have to do it daily, but it helps the paint be a little, I don't know, richer, feel better, not quite such a dry thing. Of course, you're still going to use your water, but and I have this T-shirt down here that's getting pretty dirty. I may want to eventually alter that. So I've got a pretty big one. Remember, we were working in 5x7s, and I've got a number 12 Princeton round Heritage. Went to my local supplier the other day, and they had almost no brushes of this style, of this type, of this model, the Princeton's, the Heritage. And I asked the guy, "Are you still carrying them?" And he said, "Yeah, they're right over there." And I said, "Well, it's empty. That's why I assumed you weren't. 'Cause it doesn't do me any good. I try to support the brick and mortars whenever I can. You can get all this stuff, you know, from Amazon, but try and not do Amazon if I don't have to, because, and of course, the world's getting to where we almost, kind of like when Walmart came in or Walgreens, they got rid of all the competition. And I'm afraid Amazon's doing a pretty good job of that as well. But I try and buy from a brick and mortar, and the reason is not only that I enjoy the brick and mortars, but um, when you buy from something like Amazon, there used to be a theory that Walmart created a donut of poverty around it because they didn't pay enough people with health insurance and things like that. And they paid low, they kept a lot of part-time people. So uh, for so the people that generally worked there, unless they had another job, were didn't fare as well as the ones that used to in a private place, a small business. Anyway, when you buy from Amazon, it ships the money out of your community. The money doesn't come to your community. Maybe the driver for Amazon, or maybe Amazon has a warehouse, but the majority of the money goes away. So anyway, all right, let's see what I'm doing here. Doing. I am going to, I've got over here, whoops, some blue leaked in there. Let me get rid of that because I don't want any blue contaminating my yellows. So I've got a pretty big brush, and I am going to start with some lemon yellow over here. Yeah. And eventually I'm going to dip into the cad yellow deep or cadmium yellow, whichever you have, and into the cad red. But right now I'm going to start with this, and then we'll eventually work you can start with the blue and come down, or you can start with, let's do that. I'll start with the blue and come down just so you can see how that works. Boom, ba-doom. Kind of clean my brush off so I have blue. And I'm going to go ahead and do as I normally do and prop my painting up just a little bit. You can set yours on top of a roll of tape, or a lot of people buy those things that I have one out in the studio that tips up and down. And then I have another one in the office that is actually one of my students recommended. It's just a stand for your iPad, but it can pivot. So, okay, here we go. Let's get some blue in here. Let's start this going. I am going to go ahead and go through most of the tree with a very light blue because I want those sky holes and between the branches to be blue or whatever color I'm doing. And I'm leaving the bottom edge kind of damp here, okay? And just pick a level where you want that sunrise to be. Clean your brush, and I'm going to get a little lemon yellow, or not lemon yellow, excuse me, a little of this. I have cad yellow deep in my palette, so that's the color I'm using. And you can go ahead, should be able to go right through your trees if you want to. Now, you don't want this yellowish color to be a lot damper than your sky, because if you do, it'll just run up in there. So you want this yellowish color that you're doing that's near the sky to be about the same amount of moisture that you had in the sky. Oh, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit of red right on top of that and let that kind of work its way in. Maybe a little more over here. You don't have to work as much into the trees because you do want them to be able to be green. But you can if you want to. I'm just trying to miss now that I have some color in there in the trees, so the sky will show through. I'm kind of missing the tree a little bit with the red. And now I'm going to switch to a little bit of lemon yellow or cad yellow light, whatever you have. And I'm going to start bringing it down, bringing the material down to my horizon line. Remember that wavy line we did here? I think I'm going to put a little bit of something in there. So, for instance, I'm going to take a little of that cad yellow deep and put like a line of where it's in there, and maybe even mix a little bit with my lemon yellow and put a little bit more here and there to make this a little darker in some areas. Cleaning my brush off, grabbing a little bit of red and mixing it just a little bit so it's not just stark red. And still, I'm going to put a little more in here. I may even have to take some out. Look how dark that is. But, watercolor dries much lighter than what you see. We'll see how that dries up. We'll see if I put way too much in there. You can leave a comment when you see this video. Right now, it's only going to a class that's not in commenting, but they're on YouTube, so somebody else will bump into it, I imagine. Maybe. Down here on the bottom, the sun is just going down, so we want this part to be extra light down here. So I'm going to damp that, and I'm taking my tissue, and right there where the sidewalk is, I'm going to do the reductive method. Take a little bit of material out of there so that you can, if you wanted to, you could mask off, or you could draw the bottom of the sun right there and make it almost white, but I don't think we need to for this. This next part gets a little trickier. Let's have a sip of our tea, and I'll give you a moment to get some sky in there. Mm. Remember this date, November the 13th. In 1970, on November the 13th, let's see, the storm on the Sea of Gibraltar, I think. Yes, I just didn't cross the T. Was stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. It's a Rembrandt on November the 13th in 1970. Just a little piece of art history. And it's still gone. They've never found out who took it. Some, presumably, some very wealthy person has that in their secret collection. Okay, I am going to start with a little bit. I'm mixing some colors here. You can see that I am just putting in a little bit more of this. So I've got just a touch of red, a little bit of my yellow, cad yellow deep, and a little bit of cad yellow light. And I'm going to start. Now I want to build this sunset as though it came down here very light. And this is kind of a challenge. So my suggestion is that in another thing with another brush is get a little bit of uh, burnt sienna and a little bit of your sap green mixed up, maybe a little heavier on the burnt sienna than on the green. Okay, and have that with a different brush so we can do this. Here we go. I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow here, and I'm going to start right here next to my thing. In this water, I've got a little bit too much on the brush, so I will be coming back and doing the reductive method again. And I'm going in between all these little hoo-ha's here. And in between here. And it'd be good if you can keep the edges damp until you use your other brush. So it's coming down there, and it's coming down here. And there we go. There's some yellow in there. And it comes out a little bit here. Right? Now, while that's still damp, I'm going to take the other brush with the color that I mixed up. It's darker. And I'm going to paint around some of the things with this color. And that color is a little too dark as well, so I will lighten that up. And we may even come in here and make some of this a little bit lighter. And lighten this one up a little bit. Maybe even throw a little bit of that yellow in there as I'm doing this. Because there'll be some light, some yellow on this area. But we do want this area to be darker than the sky, than and darker than this area where the sun is coming right down, right? And you can kind of keep working both sides like that. And to keep variation in it, you can have a side that's getting a little dark and throw in a little bit of that yellow mixture, or Just a touch, just to make it a little slightly orangey here and there. I'm going to come down with just a tad of that highlight right through there. It would be interested to know if yours came out better than mine. If you feel like yours came out really well, let us all know. Make a comment in the future. Like I say, they're unable. The people that are currently watching aren't are in classes. They don't comment. Yes, my intention is to go ahead and redo these videos and put them on the website once the website's up. Because there's so many skips in them, I really am not happy about the skips. And go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of stuff in here. The one I'm doing right now doesn't have near as much red as the other one does. That went flying up there. See, I had too much water. When that happens, what that is I had more water. This was wetter than this was, and it seeped in. Better put something in here. Something. Okay. That's drying up. I'll let that dry a little bit. And I'll let you finish up. Hopefully yours is getting dry on the sky. Boop, boop, boom. Go ahead and put this on a piece of tape so I can pull it down just a little bit. Or roll of tape. There, is that better? Can you see a little bit more of it that way? And I think everybody probably drawn the thing by now, so I'll put the original up there. Let's see. Big pattern. And let's see how this works. There. When the sky is about dry, we can go ahead and start working on getting some sap green in a palette here. And this is another one we're going to kind of mix. Going to start out with sap green and a little bit of that yellow or lemon yellow. And start putting some pigment in here. This is too wet again. Want to leave a sky hole here and there. I'll have to pick up some of this material. It's a little dark, a little thick or wet. But I'll spread some over here first, and then come back and get some of this. Same thing over here. A little bit of this out. This one came over just a little bit over there. And I'll pull a little bit of this out, maybe off the edge here. These are the same the way that I would do like an urban sketch of this subject. Take a little less material on my brush there. And I'm going to put some bush behind the wood here. Mm, And I'm going to let this dry, I guess. You can let this dry and come back with a little bit darker color because some of it, there's a lot of it that'll be in shade. The sun is hitting this, but in reality, only the edges would get a lot of sun. So you can mix a little ultramarine blue with your sap green mixture and put in a little bit of darker color here and there, darker value. While it's still wet, or you can wait till it dries and then try and come back and do it. It's different if you wait till it dries, the technique is different. Not necessarily bad, just different. That still has too much on it. Okay, that one's drying up. We'll go back to the sap green mixture with a little bit of cadmium yellow in it. And work on this tree here. Oops, I should have left or could have left a little better sky holes in there. But maybe I'll put a few over here. Doo-doo-doo. I would have liked to have had one right in the middle there. And once again, a little bit of that ultramarine blue. So I can put in some darks here and there. And the ones in the distance, I'm just going to pretty much dry my brush quite a bit so that they're just kind of a faded little shape out there. Maybe I'll throw one in over here just for the heck of it. So I have a white spot there. And a little sap green on my brush. And make this, I'm going to make this one over here a little dark. Now this is kind of not a good thing. See where this bush ends right at the board? You want to just put just a touch of something under it so it doesn't just truncate right there on top. I'm going to make these a little bit darker as we get toward closer to us. The trees get, my little bushes and things get a little darker. I try to make them look a little bit, not just like a bauble. You don't have to, because modern art, you can do whatever you want in contemporary art, but personally I like them that way. And I'm going to go ahead and start with a layer here. We'll probably add or change it as we come on, but I'm just going to put the beginning of something here to let it start drying. Same over the one on the left, but I'm going to make that one a little bluish, just slightly bluish. And it's going to be fairly dark. Oof, that wasn't a very good brush stroke. So I'll just make the plant a little larger. Hmm. Well, that's drying. We have to wait for those trees to dry to do anything else in there. So we can start making a kind of a light wooden color. I'm going to take burnt sienna, mix it into my yellow mixture here. And let this tree dry a little bit before we mess with that. But I can, maybe we'll see if it's too wet. Start working with this just a little bit. You can negative paint, leave a little bit there if you want to put some green or some grass in there. This is a light color, and let's try and not hit that green. Yep, it's going to spread into there. Did you see that? Doo-doo-doo. That green tree's still a little wet to be able to do this. So I'm just putting a base layer on here, and while you're doing this, you can think about where would the sun be hitting these posts. So I'm going to say that I want all the lighter parts to be on the inside edge. So I'm going to take a little bit out of there like that, maybe a little bit out of here. I can take a little bit off the top or off the bottom of these. Just make that edge, if you can, just a hair dark or lighter. Like I say, these little effects, they take some practice. Make a little bit more of something similar to that, of that color. And we're going to come back with quite a bit of darker color on all of these rails. But we'll let this dry first. Obviously, as you can no doubt tell, my dog is annoyed at something out there. Somebody's putting up a fuss down the street, and the barking chain has started. Remember the Dalmatians? That movie with the barking chain. Do they still, do the Dalmatians, is that movie still a thing or no? Doo-doo-doo. So we'll come back with a darker glaze over those in a little bit. See if this tree is getting dark or dry enough to I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt umber now, just to differentiate it from the sky there, and from the fence. And I've got burnt umber, and I'm going to put in a little bit of ultramarine blue with that burnt umber, because this is quite a bit darker. Hmm. Might be easier if you use a smaller brush. I think this is a an 8, and you may want a 6 or a 4 if you can find one. Mhm. On these tiny ones that go in the sky holes, you can do it with a brush, or you can take your pencil. If you're having a hard time doing very fine work with your brush, just use your pencil to draw it in there. Go ahead and hit this tree while we're here. Now my grass back here is not as dark as I would like it to be. And what I'm going to tell you is we'll see if we have enough time to work with that as we go on. It's a little damp still, and the boards around it are all damp, and the tree is damp. But you can come back with a wash, maybe a little bit of red, a little more red I would put in it. We'll see if I get enough time to do that. Mm, I'm going to go ahead and continue working on this fence and put in some more burnt sienna. That's the reddish brown. And I'm going to say that the sun is coming down here, so things on that side, on the right hand side, will be a little brighter. And maybe I'll leave the top of this with a little bit of sunlight coming off of it. And I'm probably even going to need a third little wash over this. To make it, I like to build these things like this fence and the shadow on it. This one won't be because it has that bush right there. And let's put the light on this one. Let's say the highlight is on kind of on both sides if you can leave it. You don't have to. But I'm going to rework that a little bit after I get some of this material off my brush. Just going to soften this edge. I cleaned my brush a little bit, wiped it off, and I'm going to soften these edges so they're not quite so stark. Not quite such a dead straight line there. A little too much of the other in it. Now I'm leaving a little bit of a highlight on the left side. Oops, I didn't leave one there, did I? Pardon me. All right. While that's drying, over here in the ultramarine blue thing that we have, the little pan that we have for ultramarine blue, I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and just a touch of that burnt sienna or burnt umber, excuse me, and make a gray. Right? Let's do a little bit more than that. And with that gray, you can lean it to the warm, which would be the brown, or to the blue, but preferably a warm one because this is like a sunset, right? And I'm going to start tinkering with some shadows here. See how I left that space in there where the light is just scraping through there, just stealing its way through. Here's something that's interesting, and you don't have to do it exactly like mine, but if you will look, see this shadow? This shadow kind of lines up with the sunset there. This one should probably have been a little bit more at an angle, like I did this one with the opposite angle. It's a funny thing about shadows. You would think they all would go the same way, but in truth, they kind of go out like this toward the sun, wherever the sun happens to be. So you can do yours maybe a little better than mine. We don't know. Some of you, I'm sure, I have students in my weekly class that I teach that, man, now some of them are getting older and their skills are not what they once were. But I have to tell you, they still have some serious skills. Every once in a while, I have students that are actually either are better or as good as I am, or um, close. Of course, these aren't meant to be exceptionally fine pieces of work. We're just doing this to enjoy ourselves and to learn, so we would be confident if we went out urban sketching. Okay, let's see. This needs to have a little bit of a shadow down here, as does this. And you can put just a little darker area around these. A little darker, and a little shadow, a little darker, and a little shadow coming off the other way. Go out with it like that. Maybe this one would have one, and maybe a little bit on the left. Like that. This one would have, if it has a shadow on the tree, if you're going to do that, you would put it on the right over here because the sun is over there. And don't forget, we need a cross member going here. Cross member shadow. And part of the X. We're good in there. Hmm. Sugar cookie sleigh ride. Sugar cookie sleigh ride. It's pretty good. Okay. Let's go ahead and darken up this big tree a little bit. I'm coming back with my ultramarine blue and burnt umber mix as a darker shadow. And I'm going to try and not do the whole tree exactly. My brush is still a little damp, but I'm going to darken up some of them, some areas. And I'll do the same thing with this, but if you can, darken up the right-hand side of this one. I can put a little bit more dark in this. You could put branches occasionally in this one, some kind of. And in this little bush as well. And make them, you want them to be a little darker down here on the bottom because that's where a plant is its thickest. So if the sun is making a shadow, it'll be right there. I'm going to go ahead and throw in just a little bit of sap green down the bottom here. Now you can get more serious about it, like right there where I just did that. You could have put the very light. Let's see, right here, you could put that part in the middle very lightly. And then there's a little more grass here. And a little bit in here. Okay, let's go ahead. Got a few minutes. We'll let that dry up just a little bit more. Cover that hole right there. There's kind of a hole right there. Give it 2, 3 minutes to dry. Let's see. Okay, from Doc Talk. That's on YouTube. It's some guys just telling dad jokes. It's called Doc Talk. Got fired from the bank today. The woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her. I don't know if I told that one before or not in one of the videos. And if 666, have you heard these? Comment if you've heard these when you see this video. If 666 is evil, then 25.8069758 is the root of all evil. Okay, yeah, dad jokes. Pretty dorky, but they make you think, some of them. Kind of blowing on mine. I'm going to take mine and try and dry it off a little bit. Just a little bit there. I'm doing another one of these. I'm doing another one where the gate is open. And it's a lot of fun to do these. You could do them where the gate is broken, where the pieces are laying down. You know, you could have this one be missing or this one missing or laying down here. Or you can do the gate open. I'm going to do one for you with the gate open because that when you do that, if the gate is, for instance, open toward us, then you have what's called foreshortening. So it's bigger in the front and gets smaller. So it's kind of, for some people, it's difficult to draw. So, but I'll try to put one together for that. It won't be exactly this one, but I like to draw these things myself. I just draw stuff, you know. I like to make things because, like illustrating a book, you know, you have to come up with what you want. You have to come up with the scene that you want. And lately, though, I've been using AI occasionally. I'm enjoying it because I don't have to go get photo reference. I can describe what I want, and AI gives me some ideas, and then I take those ideas and the things. It draws the things, and then I put them in the shape that I want. It's very helpful. I have Sherry and my phone has 2,500 photo or 25,000 photos on it, excuse me, because we travel a lot, and so I have a lot of reference. But well, I would say fully half of those, that fully half of my phone is filled up with junk that I never should have called. I should have called it out, or what's that called? Curated it, gone through it. Took four pictures, and really only one of them's any good, which I probably will at some point. I started putting them in groups. I should have been doing it all along. See what I'm doing here. I'm putting a little darker, trying to leave a little bit of a highlight on the side that I think the sun would be hitting. I'm using just a darker ultramarine blue with a little bit of burnt umber in there for this shadow part for what I'm doing here. Right here where the boards connect, it's usually pretty dark. The idea here is not to be exacting. If you just do things, kind of leave a highlight there, your mind will, well, I guess there's some people who just really have to have things exact. But for the general public, looking at this from 10 feet off, your mind will assume that there's highlights and that the sun is shining there. And you don't have to be, uh, you don't have to paint by the numbers or make it absolutely perfect. In fact, it's probably a little nicer if you don't. I'm still going to make this even darker once that dries down there. The way you make things really pop, you have to have contrast. You have to have the dark. You can't have the lights without the darks. The darks help make it pop out, pop over, pop up, show up. That whatever that is. Hmm. You can make a little bit of light of this shadow and put in just a few of these little, as though there were maybe some pebbles or something. You can put a little shadow here and there, like something was there, something was there. The world is speaking poorly lately. Have you noticed that? Oops, sorry. I have the chingadera, the camera stand. Uh, People are not enunciating their words and mispronouncing things. Instead of mountains, they're mountains. There's no T. They forget to put the T in there. Maybe it's just change. Maybe I'm just old. Well, that's a fact. There's no maybe about it. So we're getting there. See, getting, it's not getting, it's getting. So even I do it. My gosh, how embarrassing. All right, folks, let's see. Getting, while this part is drying, I'm going to do a couple of things here. The rails are still a little bit wet. First, remember to put your name on it. And there's some wires here. Now this one, you can make it the other way. If you ever do this one again, you could move, see this center post here? You could put 3 posts over here and make it so that it opens the other way. This one is the side that swings open. So it only has one loop of wire here. That goes one loop of wire that goes over to hold the gate shut. But over on this side, there are several wires that hold the gate up. And they don't have to be perfect. Like I say, none of this has to be perfect. Don't stress. We're here to enjoy ourselves. It shouldn't be stress. However yours comes out, just enjoy the process. And if you enjoy the process and learn to enjoy the process, then sooner or later you do enough of it that they start looking better and better and better. Okay, what did I forget? Oh, look at that. There should be a dark, a shadow there, right? And a shadow here. There we go. Now as these rails dry up, one thing you can do is right here where they come together, you can darken those things up like right there, right here. A lot of times they're a little darker where things connect. And it does help with that three-dimensional, we're working on a two-dimensional surface. The only thing we have is value, composition, line, and color to make it have some kind of a three-dimensional appearance to it. If you wanted to, you could take a light wash. I would wait till this dries, till it's all very dry, and put a light wash up here and put a little more red in my hill there. But I think I'm not gonna concern myself with. I think it looks pretty good. It's coming along. I don't know. Here again, you can tell me which one you liked better, the new one or the old one. It's funny to me, this is the one, I'll bring this up again, because this is the one I took that picture of up in the corner there. You could see how the camera really differentiates. The real one is somewhere in between. When I'm looking at it, it's not near as light pastel as you see it, but it's not as dark as this one up in the corner. So you can make yours look the way you think it looks right. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and take this tape off of here. Maybe I am. pull in a little bit to the side so we don't rip our piece that we just did, or we just invested our time. If you happen to look at this sometime and you do have the ability to chat, tell me what you would have done differently, or what if you think I missed something. You can, if you want to draw the eye. Now, this is pretty much designed to end up with the eye focusing here, but you can make the tree with a lot more detail. I can put in a lot more little finer branches, going in the tree. And but by doing that, you kind of bring the more you work on the tree. If I put, for instance, bark in here, the more I work on it, the more your eye tends to go there to look at it. And what we're working on is developing the sunset. Man, this yellow tape really stuck to this thing, to the board. Okay, when you get a chance, when you see this video, comment, tell me which one you like, the one on the right or the one on the left. Or maybe you don't like either of them. This one, I made this spot lighter, like the sun was coming through there. And you can even make tops of these rails and things. You could really come back with some white and make them almost white, because a lot of times when you look at a sunset, it has two things. It makes things really dark that are in the shadow and exceptionally light, where your eyes are shutting down because the sun is blinding you. So parts of this could be lighter and even darker, depending on what you want. All right, folks. Appreciate you showing up, and have a great day. It's about time for everybody to go have some lunch. Enjoy the day. Seize the day. Carpe diem, right? Let's see here. Let's get there. No, not that. Yep. That, that, that. All right. Stay safe. Stay happy. Keep sketching. Thanks for coming. Comment, like, share, all that stuff, whatever.